All right, everybody, welcome back to A Plus Parents. Here we are, and I have a very special guest today, and this is one of our own families. So we put out a message to we put a message out to our families and our students. We said, hey, if you'd like to come on and do a podcast with us and tell us a little bit about what's your homeschooling experience like, then let's do that. And Chantel, you're actually the first person to say yes to that. So yay!
Yay!
Yeah,
Yay!
so it's great. So super happy to have you here. And then I got to find out some really cool things about you, which is really great. So let me tell everyone here real quick. Chantel, so she's got three daughters. They're 14, 11, and 9. Layla is, I said her name right? Layla?
Leela.
Right. Leela is doing our geometry class, and she takes one of our live classes. So we'll let her tell a little bit about her experience about that this year as a 14-year-old. And she's homeschooled all of her kids since the beginning. Plus, she's been married for 17 years and she has 2 cats and she has 1 husband. And
That's important.
Yeah, right. But I do understand the cats are in charge. So they kind of run they run the household to let you know how it goes, right? But one of the things you said to me, which I love this because I remember when I was a kid and I was sharing this as we were first getting started here, that you work for Highlights magazine and you're an editor for Highlights magazine. And you asked me, do I remember it, right? And I remember when I was a kid, which was a long time ago, right? And going, like, most of the times I would see this would be at the doctor's office, the dentist's office, and I would see the Highlights magazine. And I always loved the maze. They always had a maze in there, and you could do like a little maze. So I'd sit there waiting to go to see the doctor, dentist, and I would do the maze. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So it's funny because everybody has a different memory of what they know about Highlights magazine. And you were sharing, they've been around for 75 years. So
yes. It's our birthday year. It's very exciting.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, great. And you like Soduko puzzles. So a lady after my own heart. That's so great. So yeah, that's my thing. I can sit on the airplane and do Soduko puzzles and just get lost in there for a couple hours, and it's kind of nice. So it's so first of all, thank you for making your day work to be here. And I know you're in the middle of your own work day and kids and everything else. So thanks for working it out to be here. And let's start with, tell us just a little bit, kind of like that's what I know about you, right? So what would you like our listeners to know? Like, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you currently do. Like, what's life look like now? And then we'll kind of get into how you got there.
Okay. So I'm so excited to be here. And I think that this idea of you reaching out to family, as you said, and just to everyone, so we can just share our stories. It's really incredible. So thank you for the opportunity. And what does life look like for me now? I would say that it looks like one way it would say juggling many different hats, but I've actually gone away from that thought process. My hat is just very colorful and it's dynamic. So in my day, I do all the things that I think a normal homeschooling parent would do. We have food wars. I call it food wars because I have 3 kids and they don't always agree with what's on the menu. And I have a very picky number 2, is extremely picky. So I juggle, food wars, and I also do a lot of direct teaching. So that's kind of what takes place in my early morning time. I'm sitting and doing direct teaching, learning alongside my kids. And then I transition. I have Zoom. We're all in Zoom. So I have Zoom phone calls and meetings. And a lot of my work for Highlights is writing and responding. So I have that time as well. But I also take walks in the middle of the day. And my husband works remotely too. So we share an office. And throughout the day, we're juggling in and out of rooms, depending on who has a call and who's where. So I think that it just looks very, I think maybe if somebody was looking at it, would look a little weird, but for us, we found a good flow, of it. And it's not too exhausting, which is also what I want to say. Like, it sounds a lot, but it's manageable.
Right.
It's manageable.
Right. And it's a team effort. So that works too, right? It is
definitely a team effort. It is a team effort. That's exactly what it is.
Well, that's
absolutely
awesome. So you have a background in education and communication, right? So
Yes.
I'm going to take a guess, rewind a few years back, right? I don't know, like, how did you discover homeschooling? Was it on your radar when you were in college or when you were like ready to get married? Be like, oh, this is what I always want to do. And oftentimes it's that we hear a lot of different versions of how that
Yes.
story goes. So what was it like for you? Like when you decided to homeschool, because you've homeschooled your kids, all their lives, right? So
Yeah.
you're a veteran now at
I
this, right?
am.
Right.
Yes.
And you're also moving into that high school world. So you move from, it's kind of funny. It's like you're a veteran and you're a newbie all at the same time, right?
At the
So
same time, it's a scary thing. It is so scary, but
yeah.
exciting. So I went to the University of Virginia for undergrad in Charlottesville. And while I was a student there, I took up a gig to tutor some professors' kids. So they had now it's, I think, like more of a formalized small school, but then it literally was two professors. They had kids, about four of them, and they were looking for students to tutor. And so the kids were homeschooled, but I never heard of homeschooling. I didn't understand it. But I would go once a week and I would tutor them in English. That was my discipline. And that was my first kind of experience into homeschooling. But what got me into homeschooling formally, my niece, I have a sister who's 12 years older than me, and her daughter was in first grade at a very prestigious private school in DC, and she was just really struggling. She was spending more time in the nurse's office than in the classroom. And because I was in education at that time, I was teaching, so I was the person that was brought in to like talk about education things in a family. I looked at the curriculum and I observed her and I was like, I don't think this is a good fit for her. And my sister and brother-in-law pulled her out. And in cities like where we live, you have to get on waiting lists, like when they're in the womb to get into schools. So they pulled her out mid-year, and in the waiting period, we just kind of all started working with her, as we were waiting for the next school to open up. And that's how we informally started homeschooling. So I was really supporting the homeschooling of my sister. And then years down the road, they put her in school, took her out of school. My sister's best friend also kind of joined with her kids. And so there's 8 kids that we have in total. Mine are the youngest. And I always taught English and supported the kids. I'm the English, person and more of the like principal of this collective. And it's been in and out along the way. Interestingly enough, all of the kids decided to stay homeschooled. They all kind of set us down at one point and was like, listen, we're tired of trying these other schools out. Let's just stay. I want to be homeschooled. This is working. And that was very interesting. And we were like, okay. I think for the adults, we were like, okay, another year, okay, another year. And then when they kind of were like, we just want to be homeschooled, it stayed with that. So my homeschooling experience, I was homeschooling well before my kids, but it was really in a support role. For myself, with my kids, I did not think I would be homeschooling. So it was a real struggle. But at the time, because my daughter was raised what we call around the table, by the time she was 3 or 4, I'm sure you understand that she knew a lot, just osmosis, right? And she's a whole body kinesthetic learner, Leela is. She's a dancer, so that makes sense. And she's extremely social. And she was just raised in this homeschooling village. And I knew that the classroom environment would see that. It wasn't able to really accommodate that. And I thought it would stifle her more than allow her to bloom. And so I said, okay, well, I'll keep her home too. And then it just kind of, it blooms and it's working. And so out of the 8 kids, the oldest that I was telling you about, she's actually, studying, right, well, she's sitting for the bar exam now. She got a full academic scholarship.
Wow.
studied in Oxford, is doing very well. The second one went to West Point graduate, and has her master's, and is serving our country well. And then we have another one went to Belmont University. We have one at Purdue, and we have our another one at St. John's University in Annapolis, Maryland. So, wow. And then my three are the bring up the rear. So that's how we kind of got into it. But it was unexpected. I did not really settle into it until 3 years after I started homeschooling my kids, where it was like, okay, yeah.
That's it. That's actually amazing. You know, what's interesting is like, you've got the attorney, you've got the person at West Point in the military, right? And then you got the dancer coming. So it's so great. I mean, you got a little bit of everything. So that's so awesome, right?
A wide range. Yes.
So with Highlights, so you are known as an educational coach, right? Yes. So how why would someone, because you've been supporting your family and you've been supporting friends, so why would someone want or need an educational coach? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, I think that to answer that question for people, I want to back up and maybe explain what is an educational coach.
Sure, absolutely.
And what is coaching? I think that a lot of times we hear coaching and we just think about it in the sports, kind of world. But actually, coaching has been around for many years, and executive leadership in the business world. So in the business world, coaches and coaching is a common concept. In education, education started using coaches. I would say when I started, they were just kind of really starting to use coaches and to develop coaches for this. And basically, what a coach does is a coach allows someone to see or to deal with their desired wants, what they desire, or problems that they have. So it doesn't matter if the person is sitting in the business sector, or for me, I worked with people who were situated in education. I worked all across the nation with education leaders, such as superintendents, principals, administrators, and some teachers as well. All of the relationships were different because they're different people and have different circumstances. But what they all had in common was that they had a desired need or a problem, and they didn't know how they were going to achieve it and reach it. So what a coach does is it takes you from, here's this wide gap, I want this, or I have this problem, and a coach helps you to shrink it where you can actually achieve it. And usually what's in the way is ourselves and our own thinking. When you're in your head and you're problem solving your life in the ways and the tools that you know how, you're going to kind of make the same choices. And a coach helps you see beyond that and to see what's possible. So that was the bulk of my experience. I love coaching because it is right there, transformational work. And I was able to see real change, and that's so exciting. When I became a mom and a homeschooling mom, I was like, I'm still doing education. So that kind of felt very natural for me. However, I was very aware of what I had desired results for and what my obstacles were, just the things that I did not know how to figure out in this world. And I was like, there needs to be some, I need a coach, I need some help with this.
Right.
And so along the way, I started saying, how can I pull down what I know in coaching that teachers and administrators and principals have access to? How can I create that for folks like me who are homeschooling their kids? And so that's kind of what coaching is and what it does. And how do you know that you need a coach? I believe that everybody needs a coach, at least at some point in their life. We just don't know it. But specifically, if you are stepping into homeschooling and it's new for you, that's a good indicator that it would be helpful to have a coach. If you are transitioning, like you said, I've been doing, okay, I've got elementary down packed, I got middle down packed, high school, whole different thing. It would be great to have a coach in the transitions. If you are have a problem or a challenge, be it yourself personally or something in your kids, that you're like challenged, you don't know how to kind of figure it out, that's a reason to have a coach. And if you have a goal, like I want to work and homeschool at the same time, how is that possible? That's another reason why you could have a coach. So whatever desire you have or problem you have, a coach can help you see what's possible. Because I think oftentimes we lack the imagination for ourselves. We don't see what's possible. And a coach's job is to help you not only see what's possible, but to experience the impossible, to actually pull that down tangibly for yourself.
Oh, that's awesome. I work with coaches all the time. So I have coaches. Let me say it that way, right?
Yeah.
Even when I first started the podcasting, it was like what I hired a coach, you know, and he's great, and he works me through things, you know. So anyway, so we get a chance to really play together, right? Which is great.
Exactly, to play together. I like that. Yeah, to play together.
And here's what's great. So you know, you and I think that oftentimes, and I've noticed this in just my own experience about being around homeschooling. And I came from the public school world, right? I was a public school teacher. It's kind of funny now I think about it. It's like I just think, oh, it wasn't that long ago. Well, it was kind of long ago, right? So but coming from the public school world, one of the things that I noticed when I first got into the homeschool world, you know, and then obviously had the ability to homeschool our own children, and it's just been so just great. But one of the things that I noticed was that oftentimes when people first start and they get into homeschooling, you know, by not having a coach or having someone to rely on or someone to go to, that mentor, that advocate, you know, that we tend to do things from the way that we did them, you know, and what ends up happening is all of a sudden your homeschool looks like a traditional school just in one room, right? And so it's kind of right. And so to be able to have someone to kind of be able to stand back and say, well, it doesn't have to look that way. And what would it look like? And how could you start to connect that, which is really, really awesome. And then I'm going to take a guess with 3 young people at home and yourself and 2 cats and a mom and a husband, right? With they're all there. I'm going to take a guess that you don't have anybody that really learns like anybody else. They're all a little bit different.
They are all different. They are all different. They are all different. My oldest is what we would call textbook. So she was just super easy, just like, you know, just super easy. But she's also like cafe girl. So she's like a little bit of coffee, Starbucks, conversation. Let's sit together. Let's do this lesson. She's very much like that. My second born literally would put her hands over her ears when she was little.
Wow.
She did not like me explaining things to her at all. She still is like that. I had to learn a whole different way with her, and I had to follow her, which is what I think that parents we need to do. And say, well, okay, like, let's give her some space for that. So she would sit, she liked to have access to the lessons where she could read and then she could figure it out. And then if she has questions, she likes to know I'm here as a resource. So she really uses me as a resource for her learning. And she's done well with that. But she's an engineering mind. She likes to manipulate. She likes problems. And she likes her space to kind of create and to learn that way. And then my last born she is just, she's very social. And I think that being the last of 8, because she's not just the last of her sisters, she's the last of like 8. It's been a year really, or several years of just having her to be like, you're not in this grade, you're here, and not comparing. So we've done a lot of work on confidence and her being happy with what she can do at her level. Like, you're not going to pick up this giant novel your sister's reading, right? And read that in 4th grade. Like, that's not, you know, realistic. But she would get frustrated with herself a lot. And so it's different strategies that I've had to use to pull out her confidence, so that we can really see what type of learner are you really? Because I don't want you to be like your other sisters. You know, how you are is really good, and celebrating how she is. So that's been a different challenge. Each one has been different.